Hello, Trillium ladies. We are here today talking about all kinds of exciting things. Randi got a really great recent download, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all things that relate to it. And what's happening is we are at a choice point in our world, and we can merge into infinite potential types of timelines. And Randi got some clarity on how we can merge into the timeline of our choosing, I would hope. Or as I would say, the highest timeline. Is that how you would describe it, Randi?
Yeah, I would say it's a potential, it's just a choice like anything else. It's a potential choice that's at least was presented to me in a vision of where, consciousness can move at this point.
Mm-hmm. So does this relate to our personal lives or the collective? I imagine both are kind of the same, right?
Yeah, well, maybe when I explain it, then you'll kind of get it. But yeah, it is personal and then potentially collective as well as it continues.
Yeah, I say dive in. Go ahead and tell us more.
Okay. Well, first I'll explain like where this came from and why.
Okay.
And why it kind of moved to this potential. So everything in reality is in constant flux and shift, right? There is no, especially at this point in our history, there is no set, this is what's happening next. So if someone tells you like, oh, this is the plan, this is exactly what's happening, they really don't know.
Yeah.
Because all there is a series of potential expressions for your consciousness to explore itself, right? And looking at what's working and what isn't working, and then taking that information and moving forward for yourself. So for me, yeah, I think a lot of us came in with like this program that was, okay, we've got to fix 3D. We got to fix this reality down here. It's out of control. People are being hurt. Things aren't working well. So we got to come in and fix it so humanity can continue their expansion in consciousness. And, whatever starseed, whatever space you came from, if you suddenly woke up with that awareness, especially around the year 2016, 2015 maybe, then that was suddenly plugging everyone into mission. If you maybe weren't a truther before and suddenly started seeing all the truth, what was really happening around here, all the craziness in this reality, that was part of that wake up. Some of you might have started waking up in about, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, and you got more into the spiritual side, and that was your first awakening. And then that indigo program kicked in, which is call out the bullshit, expose the truth, wake up, blah, 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 right? Sound familiar, right, to a lot of us?
Krystal and Christina, is that true for you? Because 2012, I totally started waking up, seeing religion. And then it was about 2015, 16 when I was like, who are the Pleiadians and why can't I get enough information from them? So was that true for that time period for you guys?
Well, for me, it's interesting you say that, because my first reaction was no, not at all. But actually it totally was. That's when I started into my yoga teacher training, and with no intention of pursuing that path and understanding like what is all this stuff. So that I finished in 2013, and then another huge part probably was in 2017ish and beyond that. So
So everybody's going to have a little bit of a different story around that, but it's like when it's your time, the universe is going to align you whatever you need for those codes to be woken, right? For those codes to turn on. And they're literally coded within our DNA to have that happen. So anyhow.
Christina, I want to ask Christina though, what about you around that time?
Yeah, I would say I started, the spiritual stuff's been going on for, a long time, but I started waking up to the truth stuff. I'd say probably 2007, 2008. I started seeing a lot of like David Wilcock videos and different things. Whoever was speaking about it. And it was kind of a slow roll because my nature, I think at that time especially, can handle things that's a little more gradual rather than an abrupt thing. Now I'm like, bring it. But back then it would have been too much. So, but it was, building up to 2012 and taking Flower of Life Merkaba retreats and different things, preparing. But you know, something happened, but not what we were anticipating. But then it really, the truth stuff, I would say, you know, yeah, 2015, 16, 17. And then there just all of a sudden were so many more sources, and meeting you guys and people, you know, rather than I'm crazy, like, oh my God, I'm crazy, like nobody's talking about this. I'm just surrounded with people, and we're all connecting and interconnecting, and it's so nice, because that's a hard thing to question.
No, it's
You know.
weird.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so and then it's like, so we all have this wake up program, and then we kind of all find each other, right? If you look on social media, whatever, you just can you find your vibe, you find your tribe very easily, right? You see who's gets it, who's seeing the truth, who's still very much in the matrix illusion, and doing whatever they can to preserve that. Okay, so and just to preface this as we move forward, if the possibility that we live in a simulated reality is too much for you, then this next part won't probably work either. So if you're open to the possibility that reality isn't what we think it is, that everything is many more possibilities, then keep an open mind as we go forward, and it opens a lot of possibilities for creation potential. Okay. So on that note, the reality we're in right now was a reality that was taken over by these, what we would call the controllers, right? That then are basically using humanity as the fuel for their creation. They're using soul energy, source energy, to fuel their reality, which has been based in duality consciousness, based in really what you would say maybe more negative energies, as far as like greed and this power control system that is part of this reality, right? Mm-hmm. And so because of that, they've been able to stifle human consciousness expansion. And people make it very easy, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Is when we moved into this 2020 year, I don't think any of us expected what this would show, what this would reflect back to us, right? And it was a super, super huge wake-up call for me, because I had assumed consciousness had expanded much more than it actually had. Why? Because I've surrounded myself with such like-minded people and people who have expanded their consciousness in very quickly over a short amount of time. And so we get this false sense that that's normal. And then we're all aligned with this program of, and we can help wake up others, right?
Yeah.
Until we look at this point we're at now and go, oh my gosh, everybody is so asleep. I had no idea. I had no idea it was this bad. I had no idea it was this convoluted. I had no idea people could still be brainwashed so easily. Shocking to me. Shocking to my consciousness. I still can't believe it. I mean, I knew religion had brainwashing. There were all these different brainwashings going on, but I didn't know how easily people would just take a lie because they were told the lie was true, act upon it, and be wearing a mask or whatever it is for no reason, take a vaccine, whatever level they're willing to go to without any questions whatsoever. And so it somewhat crushed my space of, okay, well, we got a lot more work to do than I realized. That was the initial take I had on it. And so I thought, well, if enough of us just stop wearing masks, I'm sure people aren't going to go along with this forever. I'm sure they're going to start taking off those masks. And it's like, the further we get, nothing is changing at all. I'm still the only one when I go to the grocery store not wearing a mask. I'm still the only one like questioning this in the larger scale of humanity, until I get back to my own friends that like we all see this so clearly, and the rest of the world just doesn't, and they don't want to. They don't even want to be accountable whatsoever for their choice. They're told wear it, they do. They're told that's science, they believe it. They're told whatever the story is, they're just going along with it, or they're just afraid, so they're going along with it, or their states have become so oppressive that they have no choice now, that choice is completely gone at this point. And so the other night I went to this, Krystal was there, so she knows how upset I got, but I went to this, there was one of our state legislatures, Congress, state, what was it, Krystal? The congressional district for our area. Anyway,
Yes.
he, we're talking, he was there, he's there on our side, like he wants vaccine freedom. So we were talking about the possibilities with that. We're talking about the masks, and he explained like why they created this law that allowed our governor to just go in and write all these laws. Oh, yep, you have to wear a mask, you have to do this, da, 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 da. And it's just like, and I'm just like, and this is okay with you? Like, how can you guys make laws that that they can just use to strip freedom away? And why do you keep doing it? And they, it's like they come up with these illusions in their head of why they think that that's okay. And they don't even think outside of that box. Like, what if this was used to control people, not to keep people safe? Like, it didn't even like cross their minds. And so I'm like, okay, so it's like, okay, well, how do we end these laws then? How do we get out of this? And the process was so ridiculously impossible. Like the options he gave are just like, that's never going to happen. So what is the actual solution here? And it left me this feeling of complete hopelessness, like there is no way to politically get out of this situation we have dug ourselves into. We have given government so much power and made it so incredibly complicated to ever get it back again, that without complete revolution or without complete teardown of the old structure, it's not happening. And so with that, it kind of put me into this sense of hopelessness. Like, we're never going to complete this mission. We're never going to be able to liberate humanity from this. This is too, in fact, he even said it's like, oh, it's like a big wad of yarn, just kind of all tied up and whatever, and to try to undo it. I'm like, and you're okay with this? Like, how is this okay with everyone? And then he gets bugged at me because I'm passionately saying like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but anyhow, so long story short, I left, and I was just super upset, super distraught, super really just disgusted by humanity, disgusted that this is that we've created for our government, and disgusted that we forgot the importance of freedom. So now I have to process all that shit, right? So it's like, okay, what's next? And so I of course consulted my cards, because I knew I had processing to do, because I left that feeling hopeless, which means shadow stuff came up for me, which means it's shit I got to look at. And so I never just like decide, well, okay, that's how it is, and I'm just gonna live with it and ignore it, whatever. I'm like, no, there's something to be looked at here for me. This is reflected back to me to show me how I can now grow beyond the consciousness that I'm currently experiencing. So, that's when I go deep within, and I literally just didn't talk to anyone, didn't do anything for like 2 days as I fully processed this. And then after processing it the first day, then I had this vision that I'm going to share with you guys, and how it brought me to a space of clarity to how consciousness can potentially move around what's happening versus trying to break it down. And so if you imagine like a big boulder, if you're on a river rafting trip and there's a big boulder in front of you in the river, right? Well, you have two options basically. You can run into it, or typically you just go around it, right? But really you don't think much of it. So this is kind of the energy that I saw with this issue that humanity's having with our government, with the place we've gotten ourselves into. It's like just a big boulder in our river that, yeah, we're going to have to go around, but we can also easily flow around that. And so that's where it brought me back to, you mean we don't have to take the boulder out of the river, because I can't lift that fucking boulder. There's no way I'm changing the whole government by myself, And his solution was, just go out and get 70,000 signatures and have them all email me and blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's not happening. You know what I mean? Like, we have lives we're living. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
So in other words, we can't move this boulder out. So we got to figure out a way around it, right? To continue to our consciousness expansion. Otherwise, we'll all be stuck at this boulder, not being able to move. You maybe been on that in a river rafting trip, you kind of get stuck in an area and you have to like kind of wiggle yourself out. That's kind of what's happening. So, so we need to wiggle ourselves out. But first I had to let go of this idea that I had to get that boulder out, right? That was in my way, because that's part of that illusion. That's part of this illusion of this reality. All of this control structure is illusion. All of the belief that government has any power over any of us is illusion. All of that, we just allow it to play into our universe when we are not consciously choosing around it. And the more and more it gets in our face, the more and more frustrating it becomes. To the point where, yeah, some of us do feel like we don't have any freedoms at this point right now, and that we've given away everything. And that's true. And at the same time, it's only in this level of consciousness that that's true. And so what we need to do then is project our consciousness creation above our experience that we're currently perceiving from our two eyes right here, right? And from our feelings here, into a higher perspective of consciousness where there's nothing in our way of creating anything we want. And so that's where we're moving into through this vision. And what I'm going to share next is the possibility of moving beyond this 3D, really totally fucked up illusion we've created that was also our own memories, our own nightmares, our own stories, our own shadows, everything that we needed to look at. And it was important that we look at during this expression of our consciousness. Not only was it important, it was essential. And this is the other thing is because because you're forced to look at a shadow by an experience that arises in your reality. If you just ignore that shadow and like, okay, just gonna not talk about it, I'm just gonna go around it and not cause any conflict and and you don't really look at it and understand it, then you'll never actually be able to go around it, if that makes sense. It'll constantly keep coming back again and again and again. And so I say that because there's this belief sometimes, and this is what I experienced anyhow. It's like, well, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep creating this? Why am I creating these patterns? It must be something wrong. Oh.
You're still there.
Sorry. Okay. Someone sent a text that came up in front of my screen. Okay. Sorry. Let me go back a little bit. Why am I keep creating this boulder in front of me? And it seems to just changing shape, but it's not going away. Right. And so I had to look at it clearly so it could be understood, and then understood that there is flow around it. I had to really be an observer of what I'm seeing versus just seeing the boulder right in my face to think that that's all there is, if that makes sense. So don't be, I guess in that, don't be ashamed or frustrated when these things come up to be seen. Like, oh my gosh, why the fuck haven't I cleared this yet? Why is there still more shadow? Because I think we constantly kind of beat ourselves up with this, like, why is there still more to look at? Why is there still more to look at? And anyhow, I'm going to share right into this book. Like, this is what I was just telling these girls. I read this. I've been reading this at this time. This has really helped me like move through this last bit of shadow work that I had to do. And there's a part in it that talks about that, how important it is to see those emotions, to feel those emotions, to express those emotions so you can understand those emotions. So then they can be reflected back to you so you can heal. So this is what this reality is. Everything that you're seeing is meant to be seen. It's meant to be reflected back to you. It's a part of you. You can't keep calling it, they are doing this, they are keeping me stuck, they are blah, blah, blah. That is the illusion. The truth is you can see all that. And when you realize anything that's keeping you from your creative potential flow is part of the illusion. Anything that you're in alignment with, that you're flowing with, that you're excited about, that you're passionate about and creating, that is the truth, right? So we're going to move from the illusory reality, which is 3D, into the truth reality, which means you are creating it by conscious, aware choice. And in order to do that, you have to be conscious and aware and make a choice, right? And so that's what then I connected with Sunat Kumara. And they were explaining to me how, okay, here's a possibility for humanity based upon them perceiving where we're at, because this has not been like planned out for thousands of years. So if anybody's like telling you, oh, this was the plan from the beginning, no, it wasn't. They really didn't know what to do. Nobody really know what to do with Earth, because it was so convoluted here and so different than anything anyone had ever experienced or seen. There was no exact plan. And so once they saw the same thing I saw, like, hey, Earth is too far gone to just fix it from the social political platform. It has to be fixed on a different level of consciousness than it was created. Because the level of consciousness that was created was lack, control, freedom, taking away mindset. So you can't undo that in that same level of consciousness. And that's what all of the galactics and everyone that's here helping us is also seeing, that that's not going to change, at least not in an easy way. Now Trump, for example, why is Trump in there? Trump is a great negotiator. And what we need in order to create what we're doing is at least peace and time. So he comes in as this tool to give us peace and space to create more. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a lot of his own issues too, and his own agendas behind everything that he's doing. And so that's important to realize, that everyone has their own agenda, and everybody here is free to create whatever they want. And a lot of people here are here creating realities that serve them. And there's no judgment in that. And if you want to create a higher potential timeline, you create a reality that serves the heart, not the program. And that's what this next part is about how to create heart-centered realities that literally take form as an actual creation, as a paradise, okay? What humanity has right now, it showed me my vision, and I got this message before, but I didn't fully get it until the other night, is we are now in what they're calling the paradise reality, or the pair of dice reality. So the paradise reality is, creating this higher potential of human expression where it's centered in love, creation, joy. There's not this heavy energy like we have here of survival and fight or flight and blah, blah, blah. But it's more of a joyous, heart-centered creation potential. That is higher conscious living from the heart, and you combine other collective energies that also want to live in that way, and you can create very harmonious expressions of consciousness that are evolving in a beautiful way. Now, the heavy duality we've experienced here has forced very quick evolution for those who are ready to evolve. Those who aren't ready to evolve, you can see who they are, because they're all wearing masks, and they're all believing, and they're afraid, and they're scared, and they're, they don't know who they are. They don't know their creative potential. So they are still the product of someone else's creation, and they're buying into whatever story they're being told is truth, right? Okay, so in order then to create this pair of dice or paradise, the pair of dice reality is where we're moving to in 2021 for the collective that remains focusing on a 3D perspective of reality. And it's literally a crapshoot. That's why it's called pair of dice. Literally, it's going to be based upon, your energy, your intention, who you're with. If you played craps, a craps table is like when the table's excited, everyone's going, you start rolling good, and everyone's making money, and everybody's happy, right? When you're at a negative table, you can feel the energy, and it's totally different. And in fact, you want to get away from those tables because you'll probably lose your money, right? And that's the kind of potential we're moving into as this old system is shifting, but it's not shifting completely. It's just shifting to allow a little more expression of energies to move in. So humanity is still expanding consciousness in this crapshoot energy, right? They just have to be more consciously aware of their creations now. Because when you're rolling the dice for yourself, and you're not living someone else's reality, then your energy really matters, what you're throwing out there, right? And so that's what humanity's going to start experiencing is faster reflections of their own energy. And so they're going to see things either come together or fall apart much more quickly than before with whatever energy they're putting out. Okay, so that is the potential for 3D. And then what it showed me for the potential for higher conscious living. And I don't like to call it ascension because it's not really ascension. It's consciousness expansion. The ascension part means you are able to see from a new perspective of consciousness, but you're still going to be living in a physical reality, just understanding that you are the writer, the of everything of your expression of consciousness, and you get to choose. So what they proposed, and this is for us to choose into or not, is a merge between these two realities where we talk with like extraterrestrial beings that are maybe living on a fifth dimensional plane of consciousness, right? They have the ability to basically, I would say the technology, again, this is a simulation. So they have the technology to simulate a whole new reality that is conscious, aware, just like our reality is here. This reality here is no less conscious than any other, what you might think of as organic reality, because organic reality is actually illusion. Everything is simulation, no matter what plane of existence you're perceiving it from, at least at this point in space and time in this universe. We are all living in a memory from our DNA projected outward. So we are basically when you're like watching a movie and it has this, what's it called? The reel that projects out, that shows the projector. We are the projector of the reality. Our DNA is the code that we're projecting out. So if we want to project something new, then we need new codes, right? So then downloaded into the collective will be new codes of potential projections of reality. And because we've been so detached for so long of from our abilities to create, for us to try to manifest fully a reality that we can experience as physical, I would say at this point is nearly impossible. Imagine like your dreams. Dreams are pure consciousness projected outward, right? Would you want to live in the reality projected from your dreams? If you could, knowing how fast they change and suddenly there's something scary there or this or that, or you're back in high school naked or whatever's happening, right? Yeah. Imagine if that was real and that's what you were living as your day-to-day life. Our consciousness have too much potential everywhere to keep a focused structure for us to expand in a fluid way, right? So that's why we're not allowed to just, and this is what we created for ourselves, for our own protection. That's why we have this matrix reality that keeps things, at least so it's kind of forms together, so it has purpose. I mean, imagine if what I dreamed about Melanie, suddenly you had to show up as that character in my dream, as I portrayed you, right? Yeah. And you have your own choice of how you showed up. Right. And so this is why we create this structure we call the matrix. So our consciousness isn't the only thing, especially our unconscious mind, because it's the unconscious mind that's our creative side, right? That's the part that's creating reality. That's the part that is projecting outward. And so if there was no higher conscious awareness saying, all right, even though they believe that there's this monster behind the door, it's not going to suddenly appear there. And my daughter was talking to me about, because I told her about creation, like, if you believe something enough, it could be so. And she's like, yeah, she's like, Mom, when I was a little girl, she's like, I used to be afraid of the pool because I thought, well, there's no sharks in the pool, but what if I believe it enough because I'm scared and then it shows up, you know? And like she legit had that fear. So she was scared. She told me just recently, my 12-year-old, so was afraid to swim by herself because she was afraid that her fear of sharks would project the shark into the pool and it would actually become real. And that would be the potential if there was no matrix construct that prevented that from happening. And that's why we have a program. That's why we have structure. So consciousness doesn't create out of control. And we would have, can you imagine if everybody was living their dream, we'd have pure chaos. There would be nothing we could actually expand or grow from, right?
Yeah. That's why we have to respect common sense and logic and the processing that comes with that.
Absolutely. And it's all essential. So this is where order and chaos need to come together. And that's what we're doing. This is where heart and mind need to come together as one, right? And so the unconscious and conscious are coming together. This is why it must be a creation done in pure awareness and knowing exactly what you are moving into, which is what we knew before we dropped down into 3D, by the way. We knew we were going to forget. We knew exactly what we were dropping down into. We knew that we would be facing all of our darkest shadows, nightmares, everything to be looked at in order then to purify ourselves and rise above those. Not that we don't still have those emotions, but so they don't control our creations and reality. So we create from a new awareness based upon what works and what doesn't. Well, we've seen from this reality, what doesn't work is giving control over to everybody else as far as your creative potential. This is where we're claiming our potential back as sovereigns. Once you claim your creative potential back as a sovereign, you claim yourself as a creator of your own universe, meaning I'm going to receive my power as the author of my universe, and I'm not living in someone else's universe. And if you're going to a space where they're like, well, here's how it works here, and it gets you all upset and you're angry, like what happened to me, then I'm giving my power back to that universe again versus shifting it to myself where I say, oh, no, not like Krystal and I say, not in our universe, and we go around it. So, okay, now getting to the higher perspective into that. So moving from the heart, once you've brought everything, all of your program potentials into the heart, and this was one of my last program potentials I had to bring into my heart is this 3D can't be fixed. I'm not here to fix it. And it's not my responsibility to fix it. So I can now let it go. I can let it go, let it do its thing, let it crumble, whatever is going to happen, and let go of the need to feel responsible for that and focus on what I'm creating instead. And so as we do that, we're going to be then open to the possibility of connecting with beings that are already on fifth dimensional consciousness. And they're going to help us by helping open portals between the two realms. And there'll be on the other side is this new matrix potential, which is what we would call the paradise reality. Kind of back to that Garden of Eden type experience where there's lush forests and food and everything else that the land just naturally gives back. And that reality will be powered by our heart center power, which is our unconditional love, right? What a reality needs, what a matrix needs in order to manifest is energy. And so this matrix it was in survival mode. So what energy was it living off of? Fear, frustration, anger, blah, blah. That's what it was feeding off of because that's the input we gave it. So in that, of course, we're reflecting back things that bring us fear, things that to be looked at and seen to say, okay, do I want to keep creating in this energy? Is this still working for me? Until we say, no, it doesn't. And then we're letting go of our own nightmares, saying, I don't need that story anymore to be my teacher. I've taken everything I needed to look at, understand it, love it, experience it, not in a space of judgment of look how bad I am, but in a space of love, look at my potential. Look at my potential to create fear. Look at my potential to create everything that I don't want. And now take that to the potential of now let me create everything I do want in that same potential, now powered by love, powered by my desire to create, powered by my desire to express. And that then energy will be the fuel that fuels your new reality. So if you're creating a new reality in that energy, then of course you want to bring as many people, as many conscious co-creators with you as possible. Because the more people feeding, the more soul energy, soul essence, that are connected to unconditional love, that are then channeling that into your new sphere, your new bubble universe, you might call it, then the more joyful it's going to be. Why? Because human interaction, consciousness connection is what gives us purpose and joy in creating, right? If we were all alone in the world, it wouldn't be very fun to create and we would get bored of it very quickly. But when you can have your friends, people you love, connect with you, your tribe, you will bring with you your tribe into your new universe, which is why so many right now are finding their tribe. They're finding the people that they vibe with on a level deeper than anyone else, you know? And once you've reached that, once you've connected to yourself at that super authentic level, really you only love to vibe with people also connecting with themselves at that authentic level. You almost get to where the superficial stuff, it just doesn't really matter to you anymore. You'll play in it, you'll experience it, but it doesn't really matter that much, right? So it's deeper connections that matter. You guys feeling that as well?
Yeah.
And connect to those people. So once you find that tribe and you create this new energy, it's like an energy bubble vortex thing. That will be the vibration that is powering your universe. And so when someone tries to enter your universe that has a dissonant frequency, they won't even see your universe. But someone that harmonizes with your universe, they will be drawn to it like bees to the hive, because the vibration will just bring them to you. And these are your tribe, these are your hive, these are your family finding each other, your soul group finding itself. And so they will naturally vibe to this new bubble universe you've created. And there will literally be a portal door that you can pass through beyond the veil of the 3D reality into this whole new level of consciousness. And those ready to vibe with you there will see it. The portal will be open for them and they can walk through. And these portals will be all around the world. So different groups of people that vibe together, they'll have their own little universe that then will, anytime you're in a more of a fifth dimensional consciousness, then you can connect with beings also experiencing that level of consciousness, even if it's on a different planet, because those energies can all vibe together. So it ends up looking like a nucleus where it has all the different circles stuck together. So you can move between worlds, but you'll have your own like bubble universe with your tribe that you're creating with. And that's how we have all these different planets with all of these different energy expressions. They're actually mini bubble universes expressing themselves as a reality. And for us, we don't even see them if we're not vibrating at that same reality. Okay, so in my vision, Sunat Kumar was teaching me how to pull my consciousness out of my body in order to, astral project to where I want to see. And so he was showing me the possibility of this new universe we could create if we choose this option. And this option came because we're looking for a solution for those who are ready from this reality to move on into a place where they can continue their evolutionary process, right? Because this space is too much now for those of us who are done with that, who are ready to move into more of an unconditional loving space where we create in that energy as sovereigns. So we open these bubble universes, you bring your tribe with you, your friends, whatever, but you have a portal back and forth between the two realities. So that way those who, as humanity continues to evolve and people start realizing, oh, I want to be loving too, I want to live in this type of way, then those people will naturally be drawn to where you have your hub in the 3D that then connects to your reality that's your new bubble universe that you're creating. Until at some point we just say, we've done all we can do here. This universe is for itself to survive or thrive, or it will die. And that's allowing that death process to happen like anything else. When something has served its time, it's no longer, if you're not in an everlasting reality, it's because it's being fed from energies that don't continually create 0 point energy. So a reality that's a 0 point energy reality, which is what these bubble universes will be, assuming we hold that energy of unconditional love as our creative point, as our creative seeds, as we create, then they will always be everlasting. They will always be ever living until we're just decide we're done and we want to create something different by choice. So everything at that point becomes a choice. Death becomes a choice. Life becomes a choice. Creation becomes a choice. And there'll be all sorts of different things you can create in those realities. And it's all based in love and joy and fun. And some people can't handle that. So they're not ready to live in that state of being. So, so you really can only attract those who are. And that was the download.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, my question is, if we are to create a new reality, how will that be expressed if we haven't really gone deep into learning and understanding what created this messed up reality in the first place, or this boulder in the first place? And to me, those need to be addressed before, because this almost feels like I understand it and it's true and it resonates as true, but it almost sounds like there's some avoidance, like we're not really looking at that boulder And maybe, and what, how did we create that boulder in the first place? And what do we do if we move into this new reality so that that doesn't happen again? You know, the over reliance on the 5 sense reality, the over reliance on the left brain, the egotism, like all these things need to be addressed to me before we can move forward and actually create a better reality. We all have to really understand how we got there in the first place.
Absolutely.
And that requires work and knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point, is if you're not ready, it's not going to show up. So until you've looked at your shadow and realized how we created this on the outside, even though we can't change it, we can let it go and then understand, okay, that's how we got where we are.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it at this point. It's like a child you raised and you didn't raise them well. Maybe you abused them, you hurt them. And, you know, at that point, that's who that child is.
Yeah.
And that's what our reality is.
Okay.
And we made a lot of mistakes as humanity. We really, really did. And we were deceived very, very easily. And that's why those who are still in this level of deception, where they're still buying into all this, they are not ready for consciousness expansion. They still need to discover what they're creating for someone else, because they're allowing themselves to be controlled and not choosing their own sovereign heart as their guide. And that's where my whole thing is: constant let go of programs, let go of programs. Every time the shadow comes up, it's like, okay, this is a program that isn't working.
Yeah.
And why isn't it working? And that's where you have to break that down and say, why did this not work? And moving forward, what can work? And have your collective group. And this is where you like in other dimensions, they have, you know, their the councils. They have councils that get together. And the purpose of the councils is to say, okay, what's working in our society and what isn't? How can we improve it? But those councils are centered in love. They're centered in a desire for the highest good, for the highest expression of all human consciousness. And that's how they choose their councils. It's not like we choose here, where it's like, well, you know, we just elect politicians because they'll run, and we don't really care who they are, and we don't really look into it, and we don't really put our time and energy into that. We just let people tell us what to do. And we've gotten to the point we have no idea. And this is where, as I realized the other night, is we've gotten to the point we have no idea how the laws in our country work. We have no idea how to get out of them. And they've taken all of our ability as sovereigns to choose for ourselves. Where it talks about in this book, I think it's this book or maybe the other one I really liked, but it talked about how in their societies, it's all based in freedom. They give people general outlines and then let them create in that energy. And when you're working with higher expressions of consciousness that are heart-centered, it all works together.
It does.
If we're all creating from the heart, from unconditional love for all, you create something beautiful together. When it's based in greed, the need to control, the need to have power over others, then that's when you end up with a reality like the one we have here.
Yeah. It's all about
there's a level of detachment too that I've noticed. I tend to be someone who's always like, you know, really valued my connections with family and friends, and, you know, wanted to cultivate that and hang on to that and cherish that. And what I realized, you know, over the years is like I just really tangibly recall going into 2012, you know, preparing and doing what I could do, and then kind of having a little, not fear, but maybe sadness that if some shift really did happen and we are in this other reality, would my children be there? Would the people that I love be there? And there was a little bit of kind of a sadness or a fear of leaving them in some regard. And now I feel so detached from that, and it's actually it's just a knowing and a trusting that all is so well. And looking back, and you mentioned Sunat Kumara. I did a 11-11-11 retreat in Shasta, and we were in a meditation, and this energy came to me, and it said, it sounded like Sumat Kanari. And so I didn't know what that was. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, Sunat Kumari. And then I was getting some body work, and the person said, oh no, Sunat Kamara. And so I bought this picture, and I've had it since 2011. Can you see?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I don't know why the heck I'm buying this picture, and what this, you know, who this is, and what this being has to do with me, but it feels like when you mentioned the other day, I'm like, oh my God, there's a reason that happened, and it's another activation. And whether I explore more or what, it's just, oh, okay, now we're ready, and this energy is behind me, helping me guide. So I don't need to be in fear about, oh no, is so and so gonna come into these fabulous bubble worlds. There's just no fear. There's just a complete trust that there doesn't have to be sadness. Everything is as it should be. Everyone is as where they're meant to be. And if I go away from someone's energy, if there's the heart's desire to reconnect, then you'll reconnect. There doesn't have to be fear or sadness. And that's really reassuring, because it just brings me to a place of trust and faith and hope and trust and belief. Absolutely. That all is perfect. And that's just comforting, because we have so much trying to distract us and bring up fear and disconnect us, that I think that's just the overarching kind of feeling that I'm going into this with, is that all is so well and perfect. Don't fear.
So
Exactly.
what I love about that, Christina, is all of it that you just described, like the detachment. So it's like, okay, so when you untether from that, or you detach from whatever it might be, where are you? Where do you go? What do? You come right back to your heart. You come right back to your center, and you come back to groundedness. And when a person can recognize that that's what is necessary, it's not, we've talked about this so much, it's not selfishness, right? It's self-centeredness. And then everything is grounded from that place, and we lose that fear and all of it, because we come back to love. The opposite of fear is love. And so you come back to that self-centeredness when you can detach from our illusion of what we think it should look like, what we think it should be. And then when we realize from our heart space, wow, this feels really good to sit in my heart space. You know what? This is my illusion. You can create whatever you want. It can be whatever you want. So I love that you brought that up, because that's super important. Like in 2012, to say, wait, I'm going to be going here, and no one's going to be where, these are my limbs, these are my babes, these are my things, and it's like, no, actually they can be with you wherever you are in your heart space. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. And in fact, from that, Krystal, that heart space you're talking about, that is where the center of our universe is. That is the power source, the 0 point, the center of our universe is in that heart space. And so when that's connected to unconditional love, that energy is so powerful that it creates an auric field that basically encompasses the one you're in. So 3D, this new overlay of consciousness will also surround this 3D reality, which means it's going to eventually get both realities to harmonize as one in unconditional love. What that looks like during the process, I'm not exactly sure. But the more of us vibrating that unconditional love energy, you can imagine how powerful, how quickly that will start to shift things. And that's what I'm saying. That is that energy that brings those to us that are ready also to resonate at that point. And we become not teachers. It's just like, and this is where I have to, I don't like the whole guru thing or anything else. It's about being truly authentic yourself in your own heart center. Those who are ready for that, they'll naturally come to you and seek your guidance. And all you're really ever doing is guiding them to their own heart to create for their own love. And that will be their gateway into their creative potential. And that's how we will co-create and continue to expand these bubble universes that we're creating. So we're really never, like Krystal, we're never letting anyone go that we love. Love will always be an energy that connects us. And that will always naturally hold a space in our heart for those when they're ready to come, they will come. And so that's the other thing is don't worry about the people like, oh, my kids aren't ready, my husband's not ready. It doesn't matter. If you hold them, if you create space in your heart of unconditional love, when they are ready, they will come and they will do their shadow work and everything they need to do. And that's where like the retreat centers and things like that we do around the world, that will be the purpose of those. The people that are coming ready for higher consciousness will come to those, not even really understanding why, but then that will prepare them to be creators from their own heart center moving forward. So that's absolutely it. It's being self-centered in your own heart the whole time. That's a sovereign.
I had a beautiful dream last night, well, just right when I was waking up, and I won't go into the whole dream, but I was walking on like a rooftop trying to get someplace, and it felt normal and fun, and then I ended on this terrace and people were dining, and I was with somebody who I didn't know who was showing me around, like giving me a tour.
Did you say they were
and
dining
this woman
or dining?
Dining.
Okay.
Yeah, it was almost like I was in Italy or something. It was like a, all of a sudden I'm off these roofs and I'm in this terrace, and this woman was in the corner by herself, and she like had this big smile, and she's like, "Hi," and I'm like, "Hi," and I said something like, "Oh, I'm with so and so. My son is dating his daughter," and she's like, "Oh," and then she said, "Tell me about you. Like, tell me about you, and what do you love to do?" And I was telling her, I love to create, I love to, and she just looked at me and she said, "You would be great here. You would be so great here." And she just kept like, I wasn't saying a lot, but she just completely saw my essence, and she just kept looking in my eyes, and I started crying, and I said, like, "You really see me, like, you really see me." Yes, I really see you. And I have that with you guys. I have that with a few other people, but it just felt, I woke up like, this is where we're going. Like, this is where we're going. We will really see each other. Like, we will see, like she kept saying, your heart. And it's like, there's no need to say anything, because you see and vibrate and feel each other's essence to the core. And that's how we want to that's how we are meant to connect. Like, that's how we're meant to connect, not all this other bullshit and judgment and fear and but it was so beautiful. I just felt like I actually woke up with tears in my eyes, like, that's where we're going. And it was
absolutely it, Christina.
Beautiful.
Spot on. That is the energy right there.
Yeah.
And it's this joyful, like, oh, we all get to create from ourselves, our expression. We're excited to have others there with us. It's just this excitement. So love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that dream, it probably was actually a taste of what it's like. I don't even know if it was a dream more than a vision. It was a vision.
Super lucid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Super lucid vision. Yep.
And that comes to us because we had courage. And I think that's one thing that I need to look deeper within myself. And if we are to be of service to others to join us in this reality, it's like, how do we have the courage to look at those shadows? Because that's what's keeping people from emerging through the birth canal or the gateway into this new reality. And that's where I feel like the great work is. It's obviously within myself, having courage to look at it and to feel it. But to look at it as the aggregate of what we've created. And that's why I do keep going back to that, because I feel like that's why we're here, is to heal that and to merge that. And I don't see myself going into a bubble where some family members are there and others aren't. I don't look at it that way, but I literally see myself going into creating a life where I hang out with some family members and I don't hang out with others, so sometimes these things sound so like out there, but I'm like, no, actually we're kind of doing that now. And it's just a great way to conceptualize what's happening. But I still feel like now more than ever, great amounts of courage are required.
Yeah, and the ability to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And sit in that discomfort.
Yeah.
Sit in that, feel it, because that's the only way to explore it. I was so uncomfortable the last few days, from that night, whatever night that was, so uncomfortable there, so uncomfortable that I had to leave, and I cried, and yet I knew that was for me to look at. First I wanted to blame and be a victim, but I'm like, no, this is for me to look at. Why am I uncomfortable in this? Yeah. What is it that I'm not seeing here? What's the shadow for me to look at? And truthfully, sometimes that sucks. We don't want to have to say it's about me, right? We want to be able to blame someone else and just be a victim. But no, all of this discomfort we're feeling in this reality right now, that's for us to look at and to feel and to go deeper and deeper into it. And that's how you move through it. which
In
means
in
that
a 3D reality right now, people better wake the F up. I mean, it's coming. It's the next 2 weeks and post-election. I mean, there is so much revelation coming out that, I mean, it's almost forcing people to look at stuff.
And to
people
me,
are going to be uncomfortable for sure.
to me,
It's
that's
going to
like,
be really uncomfortable for people that
yeah,
have had their head in the sand.
but be
Really
brave.
uncomfortable.
And to me, that's one of the great new age deceptions right now is, oh, if you give energy to it, it's going to proliferate. But to me, that's like, no, if we don't give energy to it, we're going to get more of what we've already gotten. So we need to open our hearts and be real. And
We need to give awareness to it. Not necessarily energy. If we've given energy to it, we look at it and say, okay, this manifested as a creation back for me to then look at with great awareness.
Yeah.
And then take deeper. And that's always it, is we're just going deeper and deeper and deeper with things. And the deeper you go, you also connect to that power center. But you have to go through all your own bullshit, all your own shadows, all of your own stuff to really reach that core potential. And that is the journey of the 3D. That is the maze that we're all moving through. That is the excitement and the horror of it all, you know? So it's beautiful and it sucks at the same time, but it's essential.
You got to be real to heal.
Yes. And to be very conscious of it and then consciously choose out of it. Say, I'm not going to create that way again. You know, I saw what that does. That did not serve me. Well, it did serve me when it did. And now I'm choosing something that works better for where I choose to go with my evolution of consciousness.
Yeah. All right.
Any other thoughts on it?
Yeah. So it seems like this solstice is a big deal, and we're all gathering. We're going to be doing a retreat in Sedona. It feels very powerful.
Very
like
powerful.
A huge turning point, gateway, choice point, whatever you want to refer to it. So, but yeah,
it is, and that is why we're all being called to this right now, because this is the potential node point where these portals can be opened.
Yeah.
And so does that mean we're going to have a portal in Sedona? I don't know, maybe. You know, I don't know how it's all going to play out. I'm not going to put any like attachments to what it has to look like. And that's the other thing you have to be careful of. It's like, you know, what we're perceiving as future from a higher plane of existence, there is no time. So we put all these time things within our reality because we are centered in time. And yet all that node point is a crossover now to a reality where this potential exists, where the potential exists now to connect with this fifth dimensional expression of consciousness that we would call our galactic families, things like that. So we can actually now connect with each other because we've raised our consciousness to that point, which is why we created this point in space and time. And this is the other vision I had. I think I shared it before, that we move through time. Our experience of time is nothing more than our experience of our own consciousness. So what we perceive as time moving forward is really just how fast our consciousness is evolving. Because if you think about it, to the rest of the world, for most people, December 21, 2020 means absolutely nothing to them. Nothing will change. They'll wake up the next day, everything will be exactly the same. Yet, because we're in this space of moving consciously, for us, it's a complete shift in now waking up in a reality that we've chosen to create, where all potentials exist for us. And consciousness is evolving super, super quickly, which means we're moving through time super quickly, which means our energy fields are expanding to where we can create these bubble universes super quickly because our consciousness can handle it and power it. But that's not the same for everyone until they're ready. And then they'll start to move through it quickly once their consciousness is awakened. And I don't know what that looks like time-wise on this plane. But I do feel 12/21 this year is a major node point of shift.
Nice. I haven't heard that date before, so that'll be interesting.
You haven't heard 12/21, the solstice this year?
No, that's the solstice. Yeah.
Interesting. Seems like a lot of people are talking about it, but
I've been studying other stuff lately.
Okay. Well, anyways, it's probably the biggest node point we've ever experienced as humankind
Whoa.
as far as the potential for shift.
Wow.
There'll be a lot of new light code energy coming in at that point.
All right. I'm open to that.
Mhm.
Wonderful. All right. Any more comments from anybody before we wrap this up? We're doing good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Randi.
Mhm.
Always exciting to hear your latest downloads and gives me lots and lots to think about.
Maybe one more thing just to sum it up.
Okay.
If this possibility interests you, the way to get there is through your own heart. Start connecting with your own heart, continually looking at your programs, continually doing your own soul searching. When shadow stuff comes up, don't blame the shadow. It's a reflection of what's happening in here. Always go back within every time you start to see things. We want to blame the cabal. We want to blame outside. We want to blame all this for why we're feeling this in here. But the truth is, all of that's a reflection of what's in here. That's why we always go back to that self-center, to our own power source to heal there. And if you need help with that, that's the work I do. So you can message me and I'll help you move through your shadows too. It's a lot of fun. And we've all done it. So
Yeah.
you guys know what it's about. But it's just a continuous process as you uncover who you're not to unfold your flower of who you are.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye-bye.